Mizuto Irido and Yumi Irido are siblings. Step-siblings, to be accurate. Originally, just a year ago, Mizuto and Yumi actually dated for almost 3 years, and decided to separate after some personal differences. But little did they know that fate had decided such a cruel punishment for these two. Seriously, people ask what's the worst situation to meet your ex? This is the worst situation! Or the best. For some, I guess. But anyways, just a year ago, Mizuto's father decided to marry Yumi's mother. I mean, both of them do seem to have similar tastes. Like father, like son, I guess. Now that her mother has moved in together with the Irido family, Yumi and Mizuto are forced to live together under the same roof, alongside so many of those wonderful memories they really want to forget. In front of their parents, the two pretend to maintain a friendly sibling relationship, but in reality, these two absolutely despise each other and cannot stand being nearby. Despite being terrible lovers and clearly worse siblings, the two decide that it's best they don't reveal anything about their past to their parents, so the both of them promise to take their secret to the grave. Now that that issue is cleared, Yumi visits Mizuto's room to set up some ground rules. Yeah, baby, it's time! This video is being sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends! That's right, the incredibly overpopular free-to-play mobile game Raid Shadow Legends with over 700 completely unique champions, intense PvE, PvP gameplay, and unbelievable graphics for a modular device. Let's talk about champions. I've chosen 3 to play a little game of Kiss, Marry, Kill with you. Introducing the Shadowkin Tenoru, the Dark Elf MadaMaDA, and the Bannerlord Thalia. I chose them because they have super intricate designs and are all from different classes. They all have a very diverse set of skills, okay?
Oh, so not like you.
I have skills. This is gonna be a tough choice for me, guys, but I have to say I choose MadaMaDA for the Kiss because she looks real mysterious. It's exciting and I live for that. We got Thalia to marry since she definitely looks like waifu material, I would know. And Tenoru for the kill because with her attack damage and double blades, if I don't, she'll definitely end me first. What about you guys? Let me know what you would choose down in the comment section below. Fall is in full swing and now is the perfect time to cozy up at home with a mobile game that you can really just get stuck into. Enter Raid Shadow Legends. It's got some of the best graphics around, brutal boss battles, deep tactical gameplay, and literally hundreds of champions for you to meet, including the new mythical champions. My personal favorite is Siegfried and the Nephilim because he looks like a frackin' epic dude. Also, if you click my link or scan the QR code right here, you'll get a free starter pack with this cool in-game loot. So what are you waiting for? Just hit my link in the description and I'll see you frickers on the battlefield. Oh, that was so cool.
So there are so many important issues to deal with considering their past relationship, but the only thing that these two are concerned with is about who is going to be the elder amongst them, like every Japanese anime person would. These two want to settle down their own Oni-chan complex first. Mizuto argues that they were both born on the same day, but Yumi reminds him that even though they were born on the same day, she was born exactly 30 minutes before him, making her the older sister. In order to settle this issue once and for all, which to be honest is just made up at this point, who cares who is the older one, Mizuto comes up with a plan of action. Whoever messes up their sibling relationship by bringing up things from the past will concede to be the smaller one. Until the next slip up. The rules are simple. Act like step-siblings or lose. They both agree with this, and also state that the rules will apply even when their parents are not around. Immediately, Yumi plans to make Mizuto slip up and start snooping around his stuff, hoping that he would stop her. Obviously, any normal sibling would do the same, but they had to act like step-siblings. Mizuto casually acts over affectionate and lures her into calling him by his last name. Yumi had messed up already. Siblings, or even step-siblings, don't call each other by last names. The games, however, had only just begun. Trust me, this gets weirder. Alright, so obviously their parents enroll them in the same high school with the same surname, with Yumi taking the name of her new stepfather. They were in the same class with the same surname, and their whole plan to ignore each other outside of the house had now gone frackin' to waste. During the entrance exam, not only did Yumi manage to score the highest marks, she was also selected as the first-year representative. She was totally winning the breakup, and Mizuto just wasn't having it. Because she was so popular now as the class representative, tons of boys start flocking around Mizuto, hoping to befriend him and get close to his stepsister. However, Mizuto is the most oppressed race known to humankind, a gamer, and has no interest in anything that regular boys do. Yumi, however, notices this and decides to teach them a lesson by being overly close with her stepbrother the other day. Like super uncomfortably close. Seriously, how is this a better plan? Back at home, though, when Yumi and Mizuto are alone, she tells him that she just wanted to protect him from those jerks. Yeah, right. Definitely not. Trust me, I'm a professional when it comes to relationships, and that's not how people act. When Mizuto acts cool and tells her he already forgot about it, she reveals her true nature. She goes to the bathroom to get a bath, and then comes out half naked, hoping to make the lad simp for her. But Mizuto ain't no simp. He is an alpha gamer. And he will rise to this occasion, not fall prey to this witch's foul temptations, and show the world that gamers truly do belong on God's beautiful green earth. Holy frick, he is a simp and I'm massively disappointed. The situation gets steamy when they both land on each other, and for a moment, Mizuto forgets his relationship with his sister and leans in for a kiss, only to be stopped by their parents' arrival. Yumi quickly hides, and Mizuto makes up some excuse, but that was tense, no? This whole pretending to be step-siblings thing was not going to be easy. The next day at school, Kawanami Kogoro approaches Mizuto, hoping to become his friend. This guy has pervert written all over his face. I mean, look at that smug. Mizuto has the exact same feeling too, and tells him that there is no way in hell he would ever let him anywhere close to Yumi, so there was no use in him gaining his friendship. However, Kogoro is persistent, almost too persistent, and practically forces Mizuto into a friendship. How does that happen? During PE class, Yumi encounters another similar character, Minami Akatsuki, who can't keep her eyes off of Yumi's chest. She tells her that she is just jealous of her size, but this whole thing comes across as something way more than just jealousy. However, Yumi has other things to worry about. She had already shown herself to be an excellent student academically, and now she needed to prove that she was a similarly good student in sports as well. Minami is the exact opposite of Yumi and is in poor studies, but great in sports, and so Yumi decides she will do as well as her. One by one, Yumi does all of the exercises, tiring herself out until she almost passes out, only to be saved by Mizuto. If the whole being step-siblings thing wasn't hard enough, his simping is only making it tenfold harder. Minami takes her to the school clinic, and the two end up becoming friends after Yumi reveals that she had been working hard just so that she could keep up her reputation as a great student. The next day, however, Yumi falls sick and is unable to come to school, and Minami insists Mizuto take her to his house. For someone who had just met Yumi for a single day, she does seem a bit too friendly. At the Irido residence, Minami starts asking Mizuto personal questions as well, like if he had any girlfriend or not. This girl is creepy. A wee bit too creepy. But I like it. After she leaves, Yumi starts bossing Mizuto around to help her as she was sick, asking him to hold her hands as she sleeps. Mizuto complies for a long time until he realizes that she wasn't sick at all and had just been bossing him around all day. I get the bossing around a bit, but like, holding hands? Like, you can't tell me there's nothing going on here. Mizuto also, for some reason, lets it slide after giving her a bit of a taunt. Yeah, there's definitely some complications. After Mizuto leaves, Yumi suddenly discovers a stray boxer lying around in her room, and the first thing she does is... Album? What the frick? Who does that? Dude, don't give me the excuses he was just trying to see if those were hers. There is not a single person in this universe that doesn't recognize their own underwear. I would know. She recognizes it to be Mizuto's. Wonder how that might be. Back in the day, she used to gather all of the stuff that he gave her and put it in a special box, treating it like some kind of treasure. Now she was reverting back to the same ways, and Yumi was frustrated at this. So she did bring the boxers here on purpose, didn't she?
You think you're slick, you little frickball, but you're not!
I, Mr. Recap, have revealed you to be the fraud that you are. Just a low-level fraud. I've always wanted to say that. Yumi quickly gets up and decides that it's best to get rid of the evidence before anyone can see her. She quietly heads outside, only to find Misato snooping around out of his room with her bra.
Bro, these two were made for each other.
They sit down in the living room to discuss the matter like civil beings. Trust me, there's nothing civil among you two. Nothing! Misato claims that he found the bra lying around in the washing machine and was about to put it back, but was interrupted by his father, which was clearly a lie, and so Yumi claims that she was faced with a similar dilemma with her mom. With neither of them willing to accept the truth, they decide to give each other one demand within social norms whenever they want. Okay! Fine. The next day, when Yumi is returning back from school alone, she notices that in a nearby restaurant, Misato is having a lunch date with another girl. She looked oddly similar to what she used to look like just over a year ago. The same boxed glasses and the same introverted looks. Yumi gets angry and jealous, and even believes that the degenerate flirt had trapped the poor girl in some shady business and was forcing her to date him. For someone whom she dated just over a year ago, that's a lot of hate to have. She tells this whole debacle to Minami, who thinks that Misato is just doing good for someone as introverted as himself and laughs it off. Yumi, however, cannot shake the feeling that something is most certainly off, and she was right. When she returns home the next day, there are a pair of shoes outside the house that looks like it belongs to a girl. Yumi quickly clicks a picture as evidence and heads inside. Hoping to save the poor girl from the predator that her ex-boyfriend and current stepbrother is, she decides to call in that demand that she won from the underwear incident. She hides in the kitchen and off the top of her head calls him and tells him to go out and buy her some lettuce and cheese. Yumi then carefully hears his footsteps as he leaves and goes to confront the girl and tell her all about her brother's character, but instead of the girl, she finds Misato in the room. She confronts Misato about the girl that he had brought home and even shows him the picture so he can't lie his way out of it. And just like that, without any protest, Misato accepts that he did, in fact, bring a girl to their house. I mean, what did she expect? A full-on apology? This was basically his house too. He could do anything he wanted. After Yumi leaves for her room, however, Misato concludes that he needed to do something about Minami. It turns out that she was the one who had dressed up as the girl and wanted to make Misato date her. She was doing all of this so that one day they could marry and be together, not because she loved him, but because she wanted to become a sister to Yumi. She believes that as sisters, they could change together, bathe together, and hold each other. Girl, I think you need to take a deep look at yourself and understand your sexuality. Damn! Of course, Misato had ignored her, but she was persistent. The very thing creeped Misato out. Misato quickly calls Kogoro, who seems to be close to Minami, to figure out what exactly her deal was. He tells Misato that once Minami had a boyfriend whom she'd pestered with affection so much that the poor lad had to be hospitalized. She was clearly not the kind to mess with at all. When Misato explains his situation, Kogoro tells him exactly what he needs to do next. So after the call, Misato goes to Yumi's room and asks her out on a date, just like Kogoro had asked him to. Next day, Yumi arrives at the location for the date. Yumi waits for her brother anxiously, contemplating if all of this was weird. And yes! Yes it is, you don't need anyone to tell you that. If you can't identify that this is a weird situation, you are weird! Misato arrives, and he gives us an example on how to seduce 101. He put in a little extra effort into his looks. Look at just, handsome, very handsome, darling, very handsome. Yumi just couldn't help but look at him in awe. He was that handsome, couldn't take her eyes off him. But for her own self-respect, she stops herself from smiling. You pretty much just relinquished the rights to self-respect when you came to this date, lady, so pipe down that ego a bit! You're grounded. Why did I sound like that? Turns out Misato got the whole idea of dressing up from his weird playboy friend, Kawanami. All of this was a ploy to get the crazy girl Minami off his back. She was just frackin' hell-bent on marrying Mizuto, and maybe if she thought that he liked his own sister, maybe she would be weirded out, back off, change her decision, and become a respectable member of society. Judging by the way the girl acted in the last episode, I highly doubt the success of this plan, but what do I know? I'm not a professional with relationships. Have I made that point clear? Mizuto takes an already flabbergasted Yumi to the aquarium for their date, while Minami and Kaminami follow them in a really obvious disguise. The plan was simple. Within the duration of the whole trip, Mizuto had to somehow seduce his sister, or at least make it appear like he was seducing her. Mizuto tries his very best, from acting cool to holding hands, to even forcing himself to praise her dress, but nothing seemed to work. It does work, actually, but Yumi is more surprised and confused than attracted at this point. Why was her brother acting so weird, is all she can think of, when suddenly Mizuto puts her head on his shoulder. This was Mizuto's final attack. The killer blow, masterclass. Finisher move, but Yumi stands strong. She refuses to waver despite his obvious charm. At one point, she'd even gone on a monologue about his smell, and she still manages to shoo him away. Mizuto retreats to the men's bathroom to regroup and rethink his master plan. The man immediately calls Kaminami to get some advice, but his master leaves him in the dust. He had to do what he had to do alone. Yumi, on the other hand, takes the time to go ahead and gets lost in an aquarium park for some reason. She does explain that she is really bad with maps, but seriously, it's a frackin' aquarium. Just keep walking, you'll find the exit. Take a bath while you're waiting for someone to pick you up. There's a lot of water. Speaking of a lot of water, she's sitting in the middle of the park with tears in her eyes until Mizuto comes in like a frackin' white knight and saves her. But now, Mizuto comes to her senses. It's kind of weird to be seducing his sister, and they start behaving the way they used to. And for some reason, they both seem to enjoy being who they are. Good people with the darkness underneath. When that travesty of a date finally ends, Yumi returns back home alone while Mizuto stays back to confront Minami. Minami had witnessed everything and is apologetic for stepping over the line, but is still adamant that she wants to marry him. Told you she was crazy. What else can a man do to get rid of a crazy girl like her, I think Mizuto should just run away and leave town, fake his death, start a new life in Mexico or something. It worked for me. Mizuto returns back home as well, finally having gotten rid of the pest that was Minami, and finds Yumi waiting to take her end of the bargain for the underwear incident. She, however, has a simpler task for Mizuto. All he has to do is pose as a novel reader for her to have pictures of. At this point, even the simple things are starting to seem kind of sus. Dude, recapping so many incest shows has given me like a frackin' Peter tingle for incest sus etchy moments. Dude, I'm a frackin' boss at it at this point. Is that something I'm proud of? No, not really. In fact, this gift is more of a curse than anything. Trust me, you don't want the incest instinct. A few weeks later, Yumi notifies her stepbrother that it was Mother's Day and they needed to get something for their mother. Now, at first, Mizuto is not so eager to join her and wants to do something on his own. But Yumi insists that they have to go together since it shows a good relationship between them. When Mizuto still disagrees, she dresses up in a really attractive uniform, which stuns Mizuto. Now, no sibling would ever be stunned by the other's apparel, and so he had broken the rule! And Yumi uses the one command she has won over him to drag him to the store with her. Is that impressive? Is that smart? I mean, it is, but I really don't want to give them credit for this. Mizuto reluctantly follows her as they head to the city by train to get the perfect gift for their mother. Oh, you hear that? That's my incest instinct going off. It's a baddie. Now, as avid followers of the Mr. Recap channel, or for those of you who really just clicked on it for incest, you're familiar with anime incest. You're fracking professionals at this point. In fact, I think I need to add the class to Anti-Sip Academy. There's a lot to learn. The two siblings scour the store for the perfect gift until they settle down for a beautiful bouquet of flowers, which kind of defeats the purpose of the whole train ride to the city, unless it was all bait for us to keep wanting more of the sus scenes. Well played, Animator. Well played. You knew exactly what I wanted. To go behind bars! I love candy bars. When the two siblings hand the gift to their mother, she's overjoyed at this and thanks them with tears in her eyes. Mizuto then goes to the family worship room to see his mother. She had passed away years earlier, and Mizuto barely remembered her face. Except for the picture, of course. He misses his mother very much, and prays for her soul. Yumi joins her and prays alongside him, making this the only realistic and wholesome moment in the entire anime. Which reminds me, if you haven't given a call to your mom or spent a moment with her, this is your time to do that. Unless she is also behind bars, in which case, I find it oddly relatable. Bro, can you imagine how his mother must be feeling right about now?
Son, I swear if you touch a single hair on your sister's head, I will come back down there and slap the sus right out of you!
Now, here's the thing. Mizuto has come up with an even better gift for their mother and father. A whole night to themselves. However, this meant that they needed to spend the night outside, and only love hotels would actually take them in, because they can't fake their IDs in a regular hotel. Thankfully for my sanity and the monetization of this channel, Mizuto and Yumi are saved from the trouble of the love hotel, and instead decide to sleep at Kawanami and Minami's place. Minami, dude, ravioli, ravioli. Kawanami, Minami, ravioli, ravioli. The issue was that those two idiots actually lived in the same apartment complex in side-by-side rooms, and the walls between those rooms are very thin, like really thin, like thinner than the condoms that I wear. Okay, so it turns out the guy that Minami dated almost frackin' committed die due to her constant pestering with Kawanami. Don't ask me how that works, I'm just... The two were childhood sweethearts, and after their separation, they were still forced to stay together in rooms side by side for some reason. How did Mizuto find all this out, you ask? Well, he ties up Kawanami in his bed and reads aloud his old diary where he had professed his deepest love for Minami and, among other secrets. By the end of the day, despite trying to take a break from seeing each other and having a private evening, Mizuto and Yumi end up meeting several times. Almost as if their lives were intertwined by some divine intervention. They're siblings, dumbass! Of course their lives are intertwined! Oh yeah, I almost forgot that. I need to calm down on the weed. Wait, I thought weed was supposed to make me relaxed. Later that night, as the two come out to the veranda. What's a veranda? Holy frick, those are boss. See, YouTube, you can't demonetize us now. We're frackin' educational. I said this before. I know I did. We're an educational channel. We're teaching people verandas, vocabs, why you shouldn't bang your sister. Okay, they go out to the veranda and reminisce about their past relationship that they can't help but relate their situation to that of Minami and Kawanami and how they were so similar to them. Except that they're frickin' not! There are roommates! Roommates can have feelings for each other, and frickin' siblings can't! It's basic human common sense! What the frick are you frickers on about? You know what? You guys deserve this. You deserve what's about to happen to you. After all the therapy I've gone through, okay? I hope you guys stay step siblings forever and have that mental trauma for the rest of your lives and have to spend as much as me on therapy that will basically get you nowhere in life but in debt. I'm sorry to everyone who's wearing headphones and had to listen to that. And I'm even more sorry to those who had me on speaker in a public area. To those of you who had to listen to me and the dude, the poor sap watching this, I apologize on their behalf. Please do not pay any more attention to them. They are just watching a video about siblings banging each other. It's basically incest, but it's okay. It's all for entertainment. So just go back to what you're doing. All right? Leave them alone. Okay, let's move on. The first terminal exams have finally arrived, and Yumi has taken the whole thing way out of proportion. She doesn't even want to go out with friends so that she can have a little bit of extra time to study and maintain her standard as the best student in class. After all, she had come first in the entrance exam and had to maintain her record. However, this is all to make sure that she is one step ahead of her stepbrother and ex-lover. Just to remind you again, whom she wants to beat, no matter the cost. Mizuto, on the other hand, is pretty chill, relaxed, and doesn't think that the exam is as important as her sister labels it to be, and decides to take it slow, take it chill, ride the wave, become the wave at his own pace, while Yumi literally breaks her frackin' head studying day and night. When the results come out, Despite Yumi being confident that she was first in her class, she was defeated by none other than, drumroll please, her own brother. How could this have happened? No one knows, but Mizuto had somehow topped the class by doing absolutely frackin' nothing. Now, she did come in second, but that's no fun. As Yumi ponders over the results, she remembers back to the time when she first fell in love with Mizuto after he had beaten her in middle school in a mathematics exam. Yumi is someone whom y'all Gen Zs would call a sapiosexual, only attracted to intelligent people. However, I would call her a really dumb chick who is trying to find ways to justify her immoral and incestuous feelings towards her brother. Yumi races behind her brother to apologize for making everything a contest, but as she finds Mizuto in the library, she is shocked to see him talking to another girl, and it was a real girl too this time, not her frickin' crazy friend Minami. Realizing how stupid she was, she decides to head back, leaving Mizuto be, and finally letting him move on. The girl that Mizuto is talking to is actually kinda cool and is into a lot of books that Mizuto likes as well. So rather than a couple, these two are actually just friends with like interests. One slight thing though, the girl, Isana Higashida, is actually the kind of person that believes friendship is the ultimate bond. She's a frickin' weirdo. It's as if we don't have enough of those already. I'm like a crackpot magnet! Yumi, after realizing her mistake, starts acting normally with her stepbrother, exactly how their relationship should have been, but this makes Mizuto worry. Frack, why, man? Why? Why can't you just be normal for once? You need therapy. Is it a monetary issue? Why aren't you taking therapy yet? Do you want me to go start a GoFundMe for you? Because I will, mister. I can do it. That's what friends do. That's what buddies do. That's what me, coming from a sane place in my heart and mind, is telling you, the insane person who isn't screaming into a mic by himself in a frackin' padded room. All for therapy. Despite things being oddly normal now, Mizuto confronts his sister about her sus but not sus behavior, if that makes any sense. Yumi acknowledges the changes in her behavior and tells him that she was jealous of him having a friend other than her and was afraid to mention it since sisters don't feel jealous because of such things. And you were absolutely right, young lady, but we have to move the plot further somehow, don't we? Mizuto smiles and tells her it's nothing like that between him and Isana. He explains it is in fact weird that she felt that way, but he knew she was weird, so he'll let it pass for now. Ah! ¿Cómo estás? Can anyone explain? After hearing her brother's words, Yumi decides to set aside her jealousy and becomes friends with Isana, the new girl who will probably stir up some trouble. Now that Yumi and Asami know that Mizuto has another friend of the opposite gender, they immediately assume that the girl must have a crush on Mizuto, because let's face it, looks-wise, Mizuto was only decent, and everything else he could probably pass as okay. Yumi then remembers the day that she had given her love letter to Mizuto. This was back when they were still not step-siblings yet, so it wasn't weird, but then thinking about it now could be weird. I'm not gonna overthink it. She remembers that she had written a letter expressing her love, but was too scared to put it in his locker, and instead stood nearby it frozen until the guy himself came there. She then handed the letter to him in person. So wait, you were scared and shy to put the letter in the locker, but fine with handing the letter in person? Oh, stop overthinking it. Anyways, that's how her love story began, and the next anime arc will begin the same way as well. Whew. Would you look at that stunning storytelling? I'd give it an A for avocado, and I hate avocados.
Take that back.
The frick? You can't eat.
Don't overthink it.
Isana, on her way back to school one day, receives a letter in her locker. The letter looks like something a psychopathic serial killer from movies would have written, and it asks Isana to come by a cafe, or else they would release her secret. Unsure of what grave secret of hers was uncovered, Isana rushes to the cafe and finds Asami and Yumi right behind her. This was all apparently Asami's doing. We all knew she was crazy anyways. Isana thinks they had found her old VTuber YouTube channel and were blackmailing her because of that. But the two girls were there to confront her about her apparent
apparently clear love for Mizuto. You know, normally I advise people to not jump to conclusions, but this time around, Yumi and Asami turn out to be correct about the weird girl Asana having a crush on Mizuto. Go figure. They both had similar interests in books after all, so it actually came as no surprise. Asana tries to deny it all at the beginning, but then there was only one boy in the entire school that she talked to and spent time with, and that pretty much was a dead giveaway. She even had the classic, "and I might have gotten away with it too" moment from Scooby-Doo. She finally agreed that she did in fact like Mizuto. However, she did say that she wasn't quite sure about it. Asana apparently is one of those sad simpers who put their friendship over her one-sided love. She thinks that if she remains his friend, it's probably better, because that way she can still be around him without them being awkward. Man, I feel that. However, perhaps out of concern, or more probably because she is a worshiper of drama, Asami wants Asana to confront Mizuto and express her love anyway. It's very obvious that the poor girl doesn't want to express her love or anything. To be honest, she's not even sure if what she feels for Mizuto is love. However, Asami is pushy as ever and explains that it doesn't matter what she feels because in this world of anime, she was the one who manipulated people into and out of relationships, and you better believe it. She was everyone's pimp, and that was a fact that no one could refuse. I mean, she cooks up a few words and even has Yumi on her side. The two girls were going to help Asana confess her love, whether she liked it or not. So, the next day, the seduction begins, and the girls leave no step to seduce Mizuto. However, for some reason, Mizuto doesn't care and ignores all of the seductive advances. At one point, the girls even advise Asana to use her body to seduce Mizuto, but that doesn't work either. Mizuto was just showing some high-level anti-simping skills, so the girls thought it probably was because he didn't even see Asana as a girl. So they give Asana an overhaul of a makeover, and yet again, Mizuto shows no signs of attraction. It's almost as if he can only get attracted to his sister. With nothing else working, Asana decides, is actually just manipulated to decide that she should let Mizuto know of her feelings immediately. Post-haste! So the next evening, Asana meets up with Mizuto and tells him that she likes him and wants to be his girlfriend and spend all of her time with him, and not just the moments during their lunch breaks. Mizuto agrees with Asana. He thinks the two would be a great match as they have very similar interests. But unfortunately, he suffers from Alabama syndrome, and his heart and other organs belong to his sister. Well, he doesn't say that part openly, but he does say he likes someone else and can't be Asana's boyfriend. Yumi and Asami, who had sneaked nearby, hear everything, and Yumi knows what Mizuto means by all of this. So after all this goes down, the relationship between Asana and Mizuto has gone back to normal. Surprisingly, the two are franker with each other than before, and Asana is much more confident with herself around Mizuto. Who knew rejection could give such a confidence boost? If only this was real life, I would have been running for president by now. But as things stand, even a face reveal is asking too much.
I was gonna laugh at you, but now I just feel sad.
Anyways, Asana is so comfortable now with Mizuto that she openly asks him to take her home. For books, though. Mizuto was a bit reluctant at first, but then he had just rejected her the other day and didn't want to make her feel even more sad. Every part of this was actually Yumi and Asami's plan. They had not yet given up the whole Asana and Mizuto love story. They wanted to make the most of every opportunity that Asana could get. So this time around, in preparation for the home visit, Yumi and Asami take Asana shopping. It was already clear that Asami clearly lacked any kind of girly style whatsoever, that is, and Yumi and Asami decide on all of her clothes for her. Reluctantly, she wears each one of them, but almost all of them make her look either too exposed or too uncomfortable. The entirety of the clothes that Asami had chosen for her was similar to Yumi's because she thinks that Mizuto would probably prefer her type, but that meant that Yumi had to change her way of dressing, which takes us to a flashback. Back in the day when Yumi was still dating her brother, she actually wore a really great outfit one day for one of their dates. She had been expecting Mizuto to say something about the dress all throughout the day, but the guy said frickin' nothing. Only at the end of the day does Mizuto say something. He liked the dress, but didn't want her to wear such extravagant dresses outside. The dude was the possessive type, and the exact type that Yumi felt extremely attracted towards. Ever since that day, she had worn dresses that he liked, even though now her ex was her brother. Back in the present, both Yumi and Asana have finally settled down on their dresses, and the plan to get Mizuto's affection for Asana has once again begun. Asana then meets up with Mizuto and heads to his room. Asana, despite all the planning, acts like her usual self and makes herself right at home. She even makes Mizuto open her socks, because apparently that's something that they do. She sleeps on his bed and acts like the tomboy that she is. Yumi, who was just there to check on Asana, is pretty pissed that she isn't trying to seduce Mizuto and is just acting like her usual self. Yumi takes her aside and asks her why she was doing that, and Asana clearly states that she was fine with being friends with Mizuto and didn't really want the hassle with the whole relationship thing if that made things awkward between them. Yumi would have complained, but it was her and Asami who put the idea in her in the first place, so she lets it be. Instead, Yumi heads back inside and makes Mizuto open and replace back her stocking. Apparently, she was jealous or something that Asana did that, and commands her brother to do it to her as well. Which is strange in and of itself, but what's stranger is that Mizuto does it without any questions asked. Okay, there's a bit too much tension between these two, so let's get back into the backstory a little bit and understand what exactly happened. Except the fact that their parents pretty much got married. What ruined their relationship? Everything was going pretty well in their relationship, as we all know from the last episode. Their love story was a perfect tale. Well, up until the point where they became incest brother, sister, borderline criminals, and sick. But before that, they were Romeo and Juliet. Everyone else was jealous as hell.
Why are you doing this?
This is my flashback voice. Familiar?
I hate it. I hate it very much, and I hate you for making me hate it.
Yumi and Mizuto were just perfect for each other. They liked the same things, spent tons of time together, and had already gotten to second base back in middle school. Frick. One day, Mizuto had even invited Yumi to his place when he was all alone to do some really spicy stuff. But since he was too much of a chicken bok about it, who am I kidding? We'd probably have to censor it anyway. Mizuto ended up not being able to do jack squat. It's not like Yumi didn't want to do it. She did, in fact, give him a chance or two. But Mizuto just cares about our channel too much, I guess. Thank you. Anyways, as the final year of middle school came by, Mizuto and Yumi were finally separated and placed in different classes, but they still decided to meet every day in the library and spend some time together. Is it growing on you, familiar?
Grow up.
However, in a new class and with new surroundings, Yumi makes new friends and can't seem to give enough time to Mizuto. Mizuto, as well, at first, is happy for her, but soon he can't stand the fact that she was spending more time with her friends than with him. The relationship is starting to dampen, and to top it all off, one day Yumi notices Mizuto talking friendly to a random girl in their regular meetup spot. She goes ballistic, and the two have a huge argument over the whole girl situation based on that small misunderstanding. Yeah, that sounds about right. After that day, their relationship was never really the same. They barely talked, for days even, and Mizuto felt pretty guilty about it. He decided to be the better man and tried to reconcile with his girlfriend, but at that point, there were just too many cracks in their relationship that needed to be filled. Yumi also decided to give one more chance to the relationship, but, well, she made all the wrong choices, big surprise. Instead of talking it out like normal people, she goes to a festival expecting that he would come to find her there like he was some hero from a Disney movie. Guess she didn't really read the title of the anime she was in. The next thing she does is stand alone by the tree on the sidewalk, waiting for him to magically appear on a white horse and give her his jacket, because that's the thing that boyfriends do in all cliche anime shows that look too cool. The two tried everything but talk to make things work, and obviously everything fell apart, and finally, off they go. At this point, they both love each other but hate each other too, so I guess it's a bittersweet ending to their relationship. Well, at least they didn't have to see each other, right? Psych! 2 days later, their parents got married, and that brings us to today, where Yumi and Mizuto are siblings with feelings for each other. Summer break has finally begun, which means that Yumi and Mizuto are now stuck inside their homes doing absolutely nothing but act sus. Coincidentally, one rainy day, their parents are stuck somewhere and are not able to come back home on time. You know where this is going. Yumi gets a message from her mother that they will not be coming home that night. As soon as she puts her phone down, she lets out a yelp. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it was in fact a cockroach. If you have any complaints about sexism, report the anime, not this video. I just recap it, frickers. It is true, you heard it here first, folks. Men can be afraid of bugs too. Why did I
Why did I bring sexism into this? As soon as Yumi sees the insect, she rushes to Mizuto's room, demanding to sleep alongside him just for the night. I mean, can you be a little more subtle next time, please? She practically forces herself onto his bed, and the two siblings sleep next to each other. Nothing more than regular sleeping happens. Trust me, YouTube, it's okay. You can put the guns down. The next morning, when the parents arrive, Yumi blames Mizuto for all of her actions. She even goes ahead and tells the parents that my man Mizuto was whimpering scared over some cockroach in his room. Bravo. Speaking of the parents, Yumi and Mizuto's mom and dad are among the two most clueless people in the entire world. These two are not only clueless, they're fracking weird too. The couple tells their children that they would go to their family home in a couple of days' time and ask Yumi to buy herself some swimming costumes. To help her buy the costume, however, they send Mizuto. Why? Why does that seem like a logical thing to do? Anime logic really is something else, man, isn't it? Having no other opinion, actually, they could have lied and Yumi could have gone alone to buy the swimsuit, but their morality wouldn't let them do so. So Yumi and Mizuto head out to buy the swimsuit together. Trust me, it gets weirder. While in the changing room, Mizuto waits outside for his sister to finally get done picking a swimsuit, but Yumi wants a second opinion from her brother. She just walks outside the changing booth and shyly asks Mizuto if he likes the swimsuit. Mizuto's dumbfounded at first, but then he starts complimenting his sister's body. Yeah. Now we're gonna have to tone that down a little bit. He compliments his sister's looks, and then the two head home. On their way, the siblings walk by the same street where they had their very first kiss, back when they were still dating. A rush of emotions start to flow in Yumi's heart as she leans in for a kiss from her brother. But stop the Alabama music right there, because for once in this series, Mizuto has gathered up some sense and rejects his sister's offer. Glad we dodged that bullet. The next day, Isana arrives at their house to watch a movie, and Yumi watches her closely as she makes herself quite too comfortable around Mizuto. Not sure why, but Yumi is oddly irritated at her closeness to Mizuto. Isana does really push the boundaries a bit too much, to be honest. She lays on Mizuto's lap and itches herself inappropriately time and time again to catch the boy's attention. However, Mizuto, as we all know, hasn't yet recovered from the Alabama syndrome despite yesterday's positive signs. When his turn arrives for a lap rest, he prefers his sister's lap, even when Isana offers him her G-cup chest as a pillow. And no, these are not my words. The girl literally says that. But yeah, Mizuto is not attracted to anyone else. He is emotionless when it comes to any real-life legal relationships. Actually, is dating your stepsister illegal? The next week, finally, Yumi, Mizuto, and their family head to their village for the summer break. I'm not expecting Mizuto's family to be any less weird than him, and I was right. Soon after arriving, Yumi is introduced to Mizuto and consequently her second cousins, Madoka and Chikuma. Madoka is the franker one, and boy is she trouble. The girl has some really weird logic, which seems to be the exact reason why she almost instantly figures out that Yumi has a thing going on for her stepbrother. When the whole extended family is gathered by the river for a barbecue, Madoka cleverly asks Yumi if her boyfriend picked her the swimsuit. Yumi shies and glances once at Mizuto, and that's enough for Madoka's twisted mind to realize what the whole deal is. However, she doesn't confront Yumi just yet. Thank the heavens she has some boundaries at least. Later that evening, Mizuto, as always, is nowhere near the gathering. He's somewhere in his great-grandfather's study reading some crusty book like a frackin' introvert. Yumi goes looking for him and finds him with an old book. Mizuto explains that it's his favorite book called The Siberian Dancing Girl. The book was written by his great-grandfather who never really published it. He tells Yumi that he has never let anyone read the book, not even his cousins, and then suddenly hands the book to Yumi. Yumi sits down to read the book and is instantly drawn in by the story. I mean, if it was that good, why did Mizuto's great-grandfather publish it? That's the question for another anime. My stepbrother's grandfather wrote a book. Or something like that. At least there wouldn't be any incest in it, I hope. Anyways, the story's so good, and to top it all off, Yumi and Mizuto are so in sync with the book that Yumi ends up shedding a tear right at the point of the story where Mizuto had cried. Not sure if that's a love thing, a sibling thing, or a poetic thing, really. The story turns out to be Mizuto's great-grandfather's first love, a Siberian girl who loved to dance. So the question comes to Yumi's mind, who was Mizuto's first love? Her first love was him, but was it the same for him? She just straight up asks him. Well, Mizuto tells her about her. He says she loved to laugh. Wow, dude, that's freaking amazing. Why don't you throw in some more details like she breathes air or eats food? Yumi starts thinking and deduces that Mizuto's first love is probably Madoka. Huh? Oh, she loves to laugh? Okay, must be his cousin. What?
One thing is clear from all of this. Yumi loved Mizuto. She can no longer control her feelings. She loved Mizuto still and can't seem to shake the feeling off, even though she knew with the recent development in their lives it made it impossible for them to be together. Yes, she did try to set him up with Asana earlier, but that was all for show. Deep within, she still liked him and couldn't see herself with anyone else. She needed therapy, but instead she gets Madoka, who tells her to confront her feelings and at least express them before losing hope. The second cousin is not weirded out at all that Yumi loved her brother and decides to help out. She set up a meeting between Yumi and Mizuto in an isolated room. Yumi then starts to prepare herself and finally tells Mizuto how she felt and how it had been affecting her. But when she finally opens her mouth, she can say nothing. Only tears flow from her eyes, making the situation even more awkward. Mizuto stops her from crying and tells her it's fine to deal with stuff on her own. The lad even makes her laugh as he leaves and also reveals that she was his first love as well. Pretty soon, the summer festival arrives and we all know what that means. It's season finale, baby, and something huge is definitely about to happen. Mizuto, Yumi, Madoka, and Chikuma all get dressed up in some traditional dresses to prepare and head out for the festival. Yumi is pretty relaxed after what happened with Mizuto the other day. Seems like knowing that she was Mizuto's first love was quite the confidence booster for her. After all, she didn't lose to her ex in that matter. However, all that confidence just poof fades away when Mizuto somehow happens to know her phone's password. I smell some debauchery. Later at the festival, Madoka makes the two take some really questionable decisions. For beginners, she asks them to hold hands while walking, her reason being that they will be protecting each other. And then, when they stop by to play a shooting game, Madoka pushes Yumi to go and help her brother by latching herself behind him. Not sure how that helps with holding a gun, but yeah, okay. The two end up winning, so there must be some science behind it, I guess. Maybe that's why I'm so bad at shooting guns. No one will hold me. Just as the fireworks for the festival are about to begin, however, Mizuto, poof, is gone. This is exactly why Madoka asked you guys to hold hands earlier. Madoka reveals that Mizuto always goes somewhere during the festival and spends some time alone. Yumi finally realizes that she was wrong to have broken up with Mizuto. She had misunderstood him and accused him of seeing other women despite knowing that the poor guy was actually an introvert who barely even talked to her. She'd expected him to magically show up in the middle of the festival to meet him when he actually just spent the time alone. Realizing that she had made a grave mistake, she rushes to search for her lover/stepbrother. Just reminder. Elsewhere, Mizuto was alone in the woods, contemplating the choices of his life. He had never been someone who could relate to emotions, and besides, Yumi had never been interested in anyone or anything. His lack of emotions had often made him an outcast and misunderstood. Just as he is questioning himself, Yumi finds him. She finally acknowledges her mistake and the fact that they were step-siblings now, and there was nothing they could do about it. Yet, she confesses that she still likes him and even gives him a kiss, swearing that she will make him her boyfriend again, somehow. Let's go Divorce Simulator. Meanwhile, Isana is still waiting in line for Mizuto back in school, as well as the fact that their parents were still married to each other. This mission is going to be quite the task for Yumi, which is why it'll all come out in season 2, making this where we're leaving it off today. Thank y'all for watching this entire fracking frickery. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be done with the show. I will see y'all in the next one. Leave a like and subscribe, whatever the frick, if you want to see more. Peace.